one, go. Welcome.
It's like the full PNG and my hand's just in like a random place. I can't. But, hello.
I do not know what Harry's doing.
Apparently, I look like that guy.
I think you do.
I think I would if I had more distinctly blue eyes and slightly more tanned skin. There are differences, but I think I get it now. Forever I did. I've always thought I looked more like other people, like all the people I just mentioned. Honestly, for me, it's always mainly been Carl Smallwood. I've always looked at him and I thought, if I was like a bit droopier, I think I would look exactly like this guy, except the fact that he's like really tall and I am minuscule.
Absolutely microscopic.
Yeah.
Like if you're like watching this on your phone, and
that's how big I am.
Like,
that's how big I am.
That is, you just fill out the rest of the body. You can get it a bit wrong. Like you can have the legs that come straight out from the torso, like from there.
You have no idea how close I am to this microphone. I am so close. I'm standing on like a little platform that's like right here. Like I'm not just like standing on my desk. I'm standing on a platform that's like here in relation to the microphone. Like I'm describing it like here because I actually am the same, like, you know, I actually am a normal sized person. But think of me as small. If you dare.
Like he's phenomenally close to the camera. But yeah.
I am close. I'm always closer than you though. Always closer than you.
Yeah, that's because I'm a straight chill maxer.
But you do have a false perspective going on, where people probably think you have giant knees.
Yeah, well, this is the example of the Harry thing, right? Like, Harry's just, you know, like my knee is Harry, and it's just closer to the camera.
But for example, my hand is actually that big in comparison to my face.
Yeah,
that's how it works.
He's got absolutely ginormous hands. It's
Can you imagine? It's like that.
This is why we don't do audio-only podcasts. It just wouldn't work.
It did,
but mainly because we can't be asked.
It did work, but it did work. There was no like problematic reasons why we decided to change. Was there? It was just
you. Now we can't go back.
No, we can't. Well, we have gone back twice, I think. I think we've gone back twice because if you count the interview as a podcast, because I think that was still after we. Was that after? No, that was definitely before we started doing video.
Yeah.
We started doing video.
That was like August
last October.
Probably a year old now.
I swear we did that interview early last year. I swear it was early in the year.
No, I think it was August around.
Well, if that's right, then it was still not quite a year ago yet. I swear it was like pretty damn old. Well, not old. I mean, it's still in my head. I haven't forgotten about that. Everyone else did, which is a shame.
I mean, it's still our like first video on the thing when you go on our channel, though. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, which is why it's still weird that it hasn't got that much more views. You know what? If I wanted to, I found it actually. Oh, you were right. It's 17th of August last year, so it hasn't actually been a year. Yeah. I really thought it was like
just under a month,
February or something. To be honest, I genuinely thought it was around that time, which is completely wrong.
Well, I think we got in contact. He got in contact with us, like January, not January, July, June-ish.
Yeah, there you go. There's Tyler's knowledge of the months. I know they
began with J.
I know they begin with J's, but they're very different months. So I'm starting to glow a bit.
No, June and July are not. They're very different.
I mean, those two from January. I mean,
yeah,
they quite the pairing, June and July. I can't blame you too much for that. You know, you're not like me who recites the months of the year daily to make sure they don't leave my brain. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. You know that June is thanks to Junius Caesar. Fun fact.
Fucking hell. Welcome to the post-apocalyptic edition of the Barrow Vision podcast. I don't know, compel me to say that. I remember an episode of Mock the Week where Dara O'Brien did that. He was like, "Welcome to the post-apocalyptic edition," and it's because he was standing up. It meant the apocalypse had happened or something. Like, can you imagine though if we did cover real events? We'd have so much to talk about.
Yeah.
Actually, no. Did you? No, because there is a the computer thing, the Windows thing. Have you heard about this yet?
I saw a little bit about it. Yeah. What?
So it's weird because obviously
it's like Windows, right?
Do I use Windows? I actually don't know how this works.
Likely.
Yeah, I think I do. I mean, it's a HP computer, but the operating system is Windows, right? Either way, yes, but either way, it's Windows PCs. So I think we're safe. I think I'm safe. I think laptop people are safe. Basically, pretty much every Windows PC, like mainly in a workstation environment. I don't know where the specifics of it come from, but pretty much every Windows PC has just stopped working around the world due to a software update, and they're just
still going, or just still, or like for a moment.
No, it's still. Yeah, everything's kind of fucked. Airports are really fucked.
Saw that meme. Or it's not a meme. It was just, Swift thing showing all the planes and how they just stopped doing that, which I think is absurd that we have that many planes in the sky anyway.
We have like so many.
It's too many, really. But yeah,
it's like a miracle that there aren't
real news.
More collisions. I mean, first of all, your audio is a bit fuzzy. I don't know if there's anything we can do about that. Like, every time before, I've like waited. Don't do that. Oh, that was terrible. All right, hold on, I'm gonna pause. Raise a fist. I don't know. I like the idea of being in a very different position from when I paused the footage.
Do you really like the idea of having no continuity? Just teleporting erratically.
Well, continuity is not our strong suit. Maybe. I think it makes more sense than anything to. Actually, you know what? I want to ask first. I don't know if we should talk about this. It's kind of weird. Not that it's important. I just mean whether or not it's even worth talking about. Which is the apron.
Yeah.
You haven't.
Well, it's not really worth talking about, but it is occurring.
It would be worth talking about if you could show it.
If I wanted it, it would have today or any time, it would have been like £8 delivery. So fuck that noise. But I got it like still with like £3 delivery. It'll come then at the end of the month or the very beginning of the next month.
Oh,
and basically.
Okay, well, it'll basically. Sorry, it will be here before the next podcast. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. Well, I've started baking. I already like cooked most of our dinners at home. Cooking being like putting burgers in the oven.
Amen.
But I've started making flapjacks, which, as far as I'm aware, is an English thing. It came under British cuisine on like the recipes I looked.
Yeah, I mean, it was invented in I think 1831 by Jonathan Flapjack. Although
it sounds because it's got.
Okay.
Hey, it is ultimately a little kick in the upside to maybe actually start the fucking podcast.
Because I actually look like Brad Pitt as well. Well, no, sorry. I did want to mention. It would have been better to mention the apron when you actually had it. I'll agree with you on that. But the fact is, it's going to be here by the next one. But if we weren't, shaking things up at all, it probably wouldn't be. You said it could be here, like in the beginning of August or something. Actually, I think either way it would have been here.
I saw a couple 1-star reviews saying that they never even got their apron or thing. So
We'll see.
That's very much on the table.
Well, okay. I think the point is you didn't actually say this. I don't think you actually said it's got it's got a certain design on it. Is it the kind of thing where it's like
a logo?
Yeah. Is the whole thing black?
Yeah, it had to be, because I wanted, there was a very nice red apron color, and I'm like, oh yeah, I like the look of that. But I then put the Battle Vision logo in, and the Battle Vision logo just has a fat black square, and I'm like, well, that's not too great. That wouldn't look too great.
That's what I thought it would be. Yeah. I mean, originally, until you just made it black, I guess. So it's not like it's Yeah, it's not a print of the logo all over then, like stretched with the logo in the middle. It's just a black apron with a PNG in the middle, but you can't tell. Well, you probably will be able to tell, Tyler. It's probably going to be just a black apron with a bit of laminated card on the front.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, because they could have also had multiple, but with the size image, because I don't have the original thing. I think you have it technically. I came up with the original.
You made it
on my PC. Yeah, but then you edited the shit out of it on your PowerPoint, which is why it has. If you look at it, it has like a weird effect on it. It's not the original.
Oh.
It's not clean. So then I basically a while ago on my laptop, copied it from thing, and I used that, which basically means it was like a tiny PNG that I couldn't make any bigger. So it's just going to be this tiny little logo. Hopefully, if I got the left to right correct, over where a heart would be, which is normally where you get like a tiny logo, right? Normally, like you get like a shirt or something. If it has a tiny little thing,
so it's like here.
Should be.
It's not centered.
I don't. Either that or be around there, or I got it in the complete wrong side. Point is, that's coming at some point, and then we'll do a cooking video. Because that's Harry doesn't like the sound of it, but I'm going to do it anyway because I think it'll be funny.
You don't have to. You can just wear it during the 1,000 subscriber special.
I mean, I'm going to be wearing it normally because I needed an apron or wanted an apron to do cooking.
Nothing else.
But I think if I have a Battle Vision apron, I've got to show it off.
Yeah.
It's not merch or anything.
Well.
And we wouldn't do it even if it was.
No.
Because it cost 21 quid to make and send to me. And if we did that and then wanted to get a profit out of it, it would have been like 25 quid. No, probably more, because then we would have had to send it to them or you. Or like there would have been really stupid things, and it would have been significantly overpriced. So ultimately, if you want Battle Vision merch,
make it yourself.
PNG of our logo or something in the fucking description at some point. And yeah, go on one of those websites.
If you really, for some fucking reason, want Battle Vision merchandise, just make it yourself. We're never. Yeah, I don't think that's a service we can ever. Look, we literally only have one milestone, and that's just 1,000 subscribers. There is no way we're ever doing merch. I'm sorry. I mean, I come on. I mean,
it's not realistic.
But speaking of that, I mean, we are. I mean, the actual number over 950 doesn't really matter. We are at 950 subscribers. Obviously the closest we've ever been to that holy grail. So come on. Get us there.
I think we're still brainstorming a
no
thing.
Well, okay, we could. I know what I want to do. I know what I want it to be. So there's a thing. A holy elixir, you might say. I mean, it's actually inverted. It's obviously it's reversed. A bottle of Red Rock bitter. So it's a real drink called Red Rock that I found in Devon. And it's currently just a souvenir, and it would remain a souvenir still. This bottle, I would, take the lid off as carefully as I could, and put it back on, because you can do that as long as it's not like bent too much, and keep it as it is. But what is a good enough reason to open it? Well, there isn't one aside from something like that. Us getting 1,000 subscribers, basically. Yeah. So it's going to be involved. I think my plan and I think you know part of the plan. I think you know Red Bull's involved. I think.
Yeah,
because the idea is
I'm
to
aware
make
enough of the plan to know that I will not enjoy it. I think that's the main goal.
Well, it's the idea is to make a Red Rock blaster or to make Red Rock blaster shots. They wouldn't be. Look, this isn't. It's not strong. It's really not strong.
Doesn't have to be. I find Coca-Cola strong.
I mean, alcoholically, it doesn't. You know, because it's not very potent at all. But I was like, I think one day I was just like, if I were to do it, what the fuck would we actually do? Like, what would a drinking game be? And I was just like, well, maybe, maybe the Deep Rock theming is there enough just from making Red Rock blasters. So I was literally just like, why don't we just do like fucking Would You Rather or something? Like the website where it's Would You Rather. It's you might not, but it's like literally just like a Would You Rather game website, and you just click and it tells you what the most popular option is. I don't know. My idea was like,
what if you don't pick the most popular one, you have to drink a shot? Is that how it works? Right.
But you still have to be truthful. I don't know. That's a very basic outline because
I think with the way things are, we've got plenty of time before we have to worry about it.
You say that. You say that. You might be right, but you also might be wrong because look, some stuff has been doing really well recently, and that's not exclusive in either way. Some of the Overclock showcase has been doing really well. The last video we did really, really well. Better than most of our actual joint videos do. That tier list, which is awesome, especially because there's more where that came from. There's a hell of a lot more actually, which is I think the first real point. Obviously, it's still quite self-centered on us, but I think there's a bit of an update to be made to the schedule. Oh my god. Oh my! I hate their tails, man. I hate the tail. I really don't like it.
He's so eepy.
So, as far as the channel update goes, we have made a change. There is going to be not a small change, but like a very easy change to make. If you know what I mean. It's easy to change to make, and it's also going to have quite a big impact. And I want you to tell me what that is, but I'll correct you if you get it wrong.
Me?
Yeah. The change to. Why would there might not be another podcast for not a while, but
yeah, until I get the apron. But it's because we are doing it. How would you say it?
I think I was thinking. I think tri-weekly is a real term. I think so. But
that could also mean three times a week.
If it's the same as bi-weekly, yeah, fucking hell. If we did that, it would obviously. We could yap enough, but it wouldn't. Yeah, but not about Deep Rock, and that's kind of the point because look, we're about to enter the Dark Ages, basically, and not a terrible thing. It's not a positive in a vacuum. It's not a positive, but obviously, it's not a terrible thing either. But that is happening, and frankly, when you look at where things are at, especially in terms of the miscellaneous videos we could make, there's a lot more we can do that isn't just talking broadly about a game that isn't going to get an update in like 2 years, right? It makes far more sense for us to have more of the content not be this and be things like the probably around at least a dozen tier lists that we could be making or other miscellaneous videos. And that can even include, by the way, possibly more non-Deep Rock stuff, which would be more particularly over the next... That would probably go away once we start to actually learn stuff about Road Core, though, I'd imagine. If we do anything, like, I think Doctor Who is kind of the main thing, I think, because it's the main thing that we know we have any kind of foothold and people can
There is a bit
digest.
of news on that as well. I don't know if you've heard.
Is it actual news? Now, we're going to be careful here because we're not. This is one of the points. We're not meant to talk about other stuff on the podcast. That's
no, but
another
we've been
thing.
doing it this whole time.
Kind of, yeah.
But it is interesting because the whole Doctor Who thing is a bit in question, considering there might not even be a season 3. Like Disney is considering cancelling Doctor Who after season 2 because it's already been recorded.
Yeah.
Or dropping them is probably more accurate. The BBC can still continue to make them, but Disney, fueling it, is beginning to be a question mark, which I mean, would have to do a video talking about the current season and why not that surprising.
Yeah,
but,
I think that could happen sometime soon, because and also this might be this could easily be temporary as well. I think it will probably be actually, because like I said, I think once we start, well, basically once we've seen anything from Roll Call, I've already said this before, I think the dynamic is going to change a lot for a lot of people. I think, I think everyone is enjoying season 5, and I think it's doing a lot for the game, but it also, look, there's no such thing as an update that can last 2 years. There's no such thing even as an update that can last long enough until Roll Call comes out. And even then, that's not going to cater to everyone, especially if you're stuck on console. But as far as the podcast goes, I think the tri-weekly thing could potentially be undone once Roll Call is once we were able to talk about it, basically. Because there'd be so many different topics, right? We could easily do a whole episode on just what we would want out of customization in Roll Call, for example, if there is even going to be any. Which I'm sure there will be, but there'll be loads of those, and I even want to potentially do some of those before we even see stuff from Roll Call, which kind of works. But the truth is, we got a bunch. We can basically redo every tier list almost, and I think for a lot of them, it's been long enough where it's not going to feel that stupid to do that as well. For some of them, it especially makes sense. I think I don't know what the next one's going to be, and I doubt you've given that any thought.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm barely playing it.
Well, that's another thing in itself.
Really, it would be this maybe the secondaries, maybe, or the anomaly warning. It would be one of those, I think.
Yeah, which I think we definitely do want to combine.
Mode, if you want to just go straight in, rip that one off.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I feel like that depends, because obviously I'm weird and I like to balance things out in a very pseudo logical way, where it's not real logic that I have, but it still makes enough sense to me. Where it would depend on whether or not you would consider the last one to be a particularly big one, the last tier list we did. Obviously it wasn't a short video, and they are very important parts of the game, but it's just my brain's just oh, would we rather just do hats next time or something? Something a bit more obscure. I don't know. We could do the mission types one next, actually. We could. I think we could bookend this weird big tier list period with some of the big ones, because I don't know when we're going to do the update one, which is one I've wanted to do for a long time, and it's also a very bizarre one, frankly. We could do mission types next. I don't know if I want to do it next week necessarily. Possibly the week after, but then I wouldn't know exactly what we're doing next week either, necessarily. And because I'm autistic as hell, I don't want to necessarily do two in a row either. There are other videos that we can do.
No, yeah. If you're looking at other than deep rock stuff, there are
I don't mean necessarily that either. But
no,
yeah.
I know, but you could. I mean, a certain show has just wrapped up its season. Right, just recently. I mean, realistically, this would have been the best time, but we're doing a podcast this week.
No, this is fine. Well, yeah, okay. So obviously, Tyler's talking about The Boys. Well, okay, that's one we could actually do next week potentially. And then we'll follow up with we could do the mission types tier list the week after. That would actually probably make it justified as well. Because
yeah,
and how would you do it if we were to do a video on the bros? Because my brain, obviously, because of the way we are, we're doing episode tier list. We could, but not necessarily call it one. We could just use that framework to get through, go through it episode by episode. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't think of it that way. I was just kind of thinking more of the thing is obviously this is a problem that we don't quite remember enough about the old episodes. I don't at least. I call relate vaguely. Even then, like some of the first couple, I can barely quite put together. But I don't know. I think there there's external stuff like the boys' hate is really louder than ever, and I think it's never been more unjustified. To be honest with you, like I think it's really fucking solid at the moment. But which that's what the video could talk about.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe we'll do because I almost actually I did suggest this like last week until we shifted plans to doing the video that we did. I was like, oh, let's do the boys. I think I suggested that like for this week. Actually, I think we were originally going to do a podcast last week, and then we would have done a boys video this week, and you were like, nah, and that was kind of it from you. But like, I kind of did come up with the idea to sort of rejig stuff, which I think is going to work out quite well. So yeah, and also why I brought up the fact that I was already trying to suggest that we do a boys thing like last week is because it's probably one of the only other things that we would bother with. I mean, we've done a couple things before, like we did a Mass Effect character tier list, but that got nothing. Thing about the Doctor Who stuff, it actually has gotten some views.
People like Doctor Who. I'm like talking about Mass Effect in 2024.
Yeah, so there'll be
2023.
As we've established, there'll be a bit more of that. But I think the boys is something that we talk enough about that maybe attempting it. It's just like let's just try stuff. We're really in a period where we can justify that. I think like trying stuff, because otherwise we could easily just be in the dark. I mean, because we literally are. So it's just like maybe we can look outside the boundaries of nothingness, basically, that will be the Deep Rock sphere for at least the next 6 months, per se. Let's say.
I think ultimately we're trying to just make sure that we still exist by the time that Road Core comes out, right? Like, I think like some other Deep Rock channels have
we will
based on
based on slightly less frequent podcasts and miscellaneous videos that will be about Deep Rock, especially because like we've got a bunch of tier lists and stuff. I think there'll be enough to last until we do actually get some legit Road Core news for sure. But I think limiting ourselves is becoming, especially during this period, like I said, it could go away, but limiting ourselves to Deep Rock would probably become fairly self-destructive to productivity for the channel if we really limit ourselves to it when it doesn't make sense to. And look, we're pretty much the only channel that uploads in this way. Do you know what I mean? Like everyone who uploads every day, it's like much shorter, and it's usually just them like playing with something
daily or monthly.
Yeah, exactly. So we're like the only week. I mean, obviously, I do more stuff, but I do more, Yeah. But we're basically the weekly guys. We're the weekly guys. We're the podcast guys. We're the do either a tier list or some other random video guys.
News guys, if there is any.
Yeah, and obviously news. Well, I mean, there's a couple things that we will get to. I think
we probably should. Really.
No, it's fine. No, I think this is fine because I think this is indicative of. Well, I think this is going to be a bit of a one-off because this is probably going to be the last episode for a while that really covers happenings with the game. Because obviously, look, it's going to be especially dark for the next one because they've just gone on holiday. Ghost Ship, and they deserve it, obviously. But that doesn't mean it's going to be nothing for about a month. And even when they come back, I don't see why they have much to say. I would assume they are just, buried in Road Core right now. And it really just hinges on whether or not we get a broadcast in October, which we were assuming we will, but we don't know for certain. But if we do, we know that's going to mean something.
The thing is, we likely will, but it's not inherently indicative of them having done anything.
Yeah,
it's like
it does also involve the
publishing stuff. Yeah, and it's then like they're probably going to update on Road Core, like on schedule, behind schedule, ahead of schedule, like probably mention something like that. Maybe we'll get a bit of gameplay, that would be really cool. We get see a bit of in-game stuff other than just those like screenshots of concepts.
Yeah. I mean, I've said it before. I said it earlier in the podcast. I think as soon as people see a bit more rogue core, especially seeing it in motion, it will do a lot to just change the overall dynamic and feeling. I don't think the feeling across the community is low necessarily, but it might be a little bit uncertain. I think if anyone, and not many people do. Most people are, and I mean this in the most polite way possible. A lot of people are quite short-sighted, and I do mean that in a good way. Most people aren't thinking too hard about what comes next, for example. But if you were, you'd be like, oh, it's not particularly clear what is next. We don't know if they're going to hit their target for Rogue. I think they will, by the way, after delaying it by quite a bit anyway. But I think as soon as people see what's coming, it's going to immediately make the dynamic much more excited. I think once the Deep Rock community is given a reason to latch onto Rogue Core as a thing to be hyped about, because that's a pretty big problem that Rogue Core's introduced, is that it's kind of been, I guess, almost tanking potential hype ever since it was announced, because it was announced a while ago now, but there's been no real reason to get excited about it because it doesn't seem like a real thing yet. But it's still been the reason why things have been a bit slower for Deep Rock for a while, So it's kind of just been tanking potential excitement. And I think that'll go away once it's actually a tangible thing, where we know what it's going to look like, maybe even know what it's going to play like. As soon as that happens, I think the attention is going to shift. I mean, it all kind of hinges on whether or not Rogue Core, in plain and quite crude terms, works as a substitute for Deep Rock, if you know what I mean. Obviously, it shouldn't. It should be good in its own right, but it also kind of does need to play that role, in a way, which is a lot of responsibility for that game, and there's a lot riding on it in a time where roguelites are kind of becoming a bit less popular as well.
I'd say they're like the opposite of popular. They are actively hated. like people like pixel shit rogue fuck or like something along those lines.
Yeah.
Right?
They just say pixel shit roguelite, but yeah, I mean that sentiment is going around. So there's a lot of pressure on that game, but we just kind of need to accept it. We need to accept that. I mean, first of all, it is probably, whether you are sick of roguelites or not, I'm confident in it nonetheless. And I'm not sick of them. I think it's like a really it's a genre that is like really compatible, if you know what I mean. Like, they almost always work, at least on a very base level. Rogue Cores,
I think
Rogue Cores, that's the genre. Roguelites kind of always get me a little bit,
Yeah, I that's the problem though. I feel like roguelikes, they wear thin pretty quick if there isn't anything behind it. And I think, as like the meme refers to, pixel roguelikes often are really quite shallow, to be honest with you. like at least like the more modern ones, like there's really not much behind it, in like cool ways. An exception being Dead Cells. Go Dead Cells, cool ass game, but it's more of the first ones than last.
Yeah, I mean, I've never played a 2D one, for example, because they just seem a bit fuzzy, personally. It's like,
yeah,
doesn't seem like it would work that well.
And there's not that many 3D ones, really, especially not like first-person 3D ones. Gunfire Reborn is really the only one I can think of.
And RoboQuest.
Oh, yeah, I guess RoboQuest.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, only one of them is like popular. So it's like, I don't know. I think Deep Rock, Rogue Core does stand a chance, and it's unlikely to be belittled for being a roguelike.
Yeah, it's more like
especially
to be
since
belittled.
It's not going to be a surprise at this point.
Yeah, it's more likely to be belittled for taking away from a game that is kind of crumbling under its own weight anyway.
Yeah, it was like already struggling, and it's like they might just pull the cord. Is a very bad faith way of depicting.
Yeah, it's like how dare you?
And I think it's more realistic. It's
how dare you make a new game when your feature complete beloved title is like slowly dying from age.
Game, it's still it's still not like going up that much because it's capped. Deep Rock capped essentially, right?
Yeah.
It has essentially reached its peak, and the only way to break through it is to start making a different mountain, right? and then you'll have 2 peaks
Yeah,
instead of
it
like
probably
one.
it probably explains a good deal
slightly
of
higher.
it probably explains a good deal of the season 5 content being quite economic, actually, because we are going to be invariably talking a bit about like the technical state of the game, I think, because I want to run through a few of the most interesting patches since season 5 launched, just as sort of discussion points. But it's surprisingly, I don't know if you agree, it's surprisingly technically sound so far. There's been people still reporting some crashes, but like season 5, for being a pretty big update as far as Geek is concerned, and this late in the game, is very like, you know, it's holding together very well. It hasn't like, you have an update like season 4 that is like, you know, worse and didn't, you know, I mean, I can't remember which one felt the most technically unstable, but all I'm saying is season 5 feels pretty stable. Obviously you expect that, but
like frame rate a lot with the Rockbox like uptick. Right?
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, it just seems to have gone down very well technically for the game.
Although, with that being said, though, Harry, the game did actually seem a lot worse and felt a lot worse until we brought down like enemy death, like remains. Like leaving them there, actually, the game felt worse than it normally was. But then you get rid of it, and then it instantly becomes fine again.
Yeah, I mean, well, we got, you know, like options that sort of cover for that stuff. I think is fine. There's a reason why we have the ability to tweak performance settings and whatnot, you know, like, or graphic settings. It is to cover for technical issues, like genuinely, like, and I think that's fine. I think having the ability, especially on PC, where you have so much more control over the graphics, I think that's a really like valuable tool because it gives the devs more freedom. I think when it's just like, we still want it to be as technically stable as possible, but when it comes down to it, we can kind of hinge on the fact that people can make it run smoothly no matter what, almost, if they want to, which I don't think is like a dishonest way of looking at game design necessarily. In a game that is ongoing, I would say if you're making a brand new game and you're relying on people being able to tweak graphic settings for it to run properly, probably not a great outlook. But if you're like this far along,
or if you launch a new game and it can't even reach 60 frames per second, and you're like, no, we'll add that later.
Good luck with that. Good luck.
Have they actually managed to do that yet? Can 60 frames?
Which one? Who? What?
Isn't it Starfield that
Starfield?
Didn't?
Yeah, you can now. There's a performance mode now. Which, yeah, I know. It's... It was such a stupid rationale where it's just like, we want to preserve the picture quality, or whatever. That's basically what it was.
Yeah.
We wanted to
the graphics were like mid.
yeah. We want the game to look really fine. Good at a standstill. It's not the best looking game, really, is it? It's not the best.
No.
I think Bethesda games, it's always been better when it just runs smoothly than anything else because they never look that great. Just have it run okay. Not that they ever do. I mean, that's something that I am not worried about actually when it comes to Rogue Core, I think, because it's still built on the back of Deep Rock, same engine, same relatively simplistic. It's probably going to be pretty like lowbrow. It's probably not going to be the most demanding thing. I can't imagine you like really need the best PC to play Rogue Core. Like, if it does come to console, for example, the Series X is probably perfect for it. Is what I'm saying. I can't imagine it's going to be going beyond that. You know.
More likelihood it's going to be another like small game size wise because they seem to value that. Right.
I do wonder if it's going to be bigger or not. I think that will be telling as to. I mean, it's kind of, I guess numbers are arbitrary in that way, but it might be kind of telling as to how important Rogue Core like really is, because it's weird, isn't it? It's almost like it's their next game, but it's also not a sequel either. It's technically a spin-off, but it seems like it's still meant to be just as big and important. It's like a weird dynamic, in my opinion, because I think you know, Halo Reach was, I guess, as big as important as the rest of them. I suppose, I don't know. It's weird.
It is interesting how they clearly felt the need to make a new game, but they knew that the Deep Rock Galactic IP is too fucking gold to give up. like they knew that they couldn't abandon it.
No.
It's like you just can't. You just shouldn't, right? It's like rule one. Like it's an evergreen, right? And it's like even though they are making a new game, it is still very much on the same field, right?
Yeah.
It is still like Deep Rock Train, and obviously for an example of something that has actually come out, Deep Rock Survivor, right? That clearly reaped the rewards of being a part of the Deep Rock IP, right?
Oh yeah, I mean it's kind of understated how well it's actually done. Like it's done really well.
Yeah, really, really well. But like it's like they're a really, really small team, right? It's like probably not. Maybe it's like not even 20, right? I assume.
I don't know, but it
people.
is much more than the Ghost Ship for sure. Yeah,
Much smaller. That. I think it's their first game as their team, and yet it had like 50,000 plus players on launch, right?
Yeah, it like beat I'm not going to bother checking the numbers now, but it beat Deep Rock's peak player count at least before Season 5. I don't know if Season 5 changed that at all. But certainly, yeah, it did really well. And it's hard to imagine that Rocal wouldn't do the same. I was having a funny thought like the other day. Well, I was literally just thinking of like opening points to bring up. Like what kind of update, for example, could sustain a game for more than a year? And I was like, I obviously immediately landed on the answer, which is, paradoxically speaking, a new game mode.
Yeah.
So that kind of just tells you everything, and like you come to the same question when it's like you look at Deep Rock's aging and its technical debt, where it's just like, okay, what's going to ensure that Deep Rock would be okay and very playable, even if updates were to slow down, whether they were making a new game or not? New game mode. You get that answer pretty much every time. So once again, there's no like question as to why they're doing it, I think. So yeah, good old Road Core. What has happened? I mean, obviously, like I said, they're on vacation right now. So what's gonna happen is that they will have moved into a new space once they come back, a larger space, filled with new opportunities, and more bathrooms. Which was it took me a while to realize that was a very real thing. Like it is, right? It is like the legal limit for people with the bathrooms.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm surprised that the legalities had to get involved, but some companies probably do need that reminder.
Yeah.
And I guess Ghost Ship, it was less about not caring about their employees, but just like not thinking about it. Really.
Yeah, but they also didn't have a very big office, so chances are like it was literally like you probably can't fit more people in here.
Like maybe like 3 email.
Yeah.
Another one, disability.
Yeah, it's right. Like, but yeah, they're moving to a much, as far as we know, quite a bit bigger office, and I think the main impetus behind that is to expand, give them the ability to expand the team. Like straight, I think we know that basically. So hopefully the effects of that will be felt as soon as possible. I mean, we might have to wait to Rocal for the effects to truly be felt, but who knows what's going to happen. What we do know is stuff that has happened since Season 5's launch, which obviously was kind of cut off last week when they went on holiday. But there has been stuff, various patches, and a couple small, more fun posts, as it were. But I kind of want to run through, I think, because the patch, if we were just looking at just like reading out patch notes, obviously I've already done that, right? If we were just doing that, but I've tried to pick out what I think are genuinely decent discussion points. Even like, let's just start with the first one, for example. This is literally from the first patch. So this is something I think at least the first 2 patches were already in place before the update came to consoles. So it's not like we would have felt the difference necessarily. And we already did talk about this technically, I think in the main like Season 5 episode. But it's just the only thing I have from the first patch to Season 5, which is the fact that they changed the jet boots thing in Deep Scan, where they got rid of normal jet boots. Obviously, Deep Scan, at the end of Deep Scan, during the extraction phase, you get the jet boots Mark II. which are great, by the way. We're a big fan of Jet Boots Mark II. But they decided, because there was a technical issue where if you got normal jet boots and had them equipped, that you wouldn't be able to equip the better ones at the end of the mission. So they just decided to remove jetty boots. And I think I'm still of the position that it was a bit of a band-aid solution. I think. And I do still think they could have probably gone about it in a slightly better way. It doesn't hurt it too much because Deep Scan's such a great mission, right? But I'm not too worried that I can't get jetty boots. But obviously, we talked about jetty boots a little bit recently, and we realised that we actually like them. You know, unlike everyone, not like literally everyone. There were some responses to that where people were like, "Oh, jetty boots, they ruin everything," which was really bizarre, wasn't it? I was like, "What?"
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like you just don't know how to use either the jetty boots or your equipment well enough.
Are you referring to like the people who don't like jetty boots?
Yeah, it's like, sure, they could seem like they screw things over, or it's just enhanced. Like, ultimately, like, everything you use them for, it could be tied, like, even better with jetty boots. Like, just jet boots. Like,
Yeah.
I just the other day, or not the other day, probably like a week or so now, there's a bunch of red sugar on the ceiling, and I needed red sugar.
A common complaint from Tyler.
And I'm because it's bullshit. Why is it up there?
It does. It's fucking annoying. Yeah.
It's like all right. So I'm a driller. I've got to like drill all the way up on the ceiling to go get that red sugar. And then probably get jumped at least once by the time I'm up there, losing any health I could gain from the red sugar.
And obviously, it's very risky anyway. It's a good chance if you're trying to drill to find red sugar that's in the ceiling, you might just, you might just fall.
Yeah, well, I'm not that much of an amateur driller, Harry. But yeah, obviously. But since I had jetty boots, I was like, all right. I can kind of gather that if I get up there with the jetty boots, I'm probably not going to be able to get back down with the jetty boots. I'll probably run out. So I just jetty boot all the way up there, drilled into the wall at the red sugar, mined the red sugar, chilled out for a little bit as the jetty boots like refueled, and then came back down. And it's like, hooray! And it's like,
well,
like
I
these
do
people
think,
will then say that like you've deprived the scout of his job. Like mining the red sugar on the ceiling, or the platform engineer, or gunner, or some bullshit. But it's just ultimately liberates everyone to use their tools in like new and inventive ways.
It does. Right? It does, but it also can override the need for them in lots of scenarios as well. I don't know if you remember a response that I gave to someone where I talked about like the element of utilizing, especially in a co-op scenario, utilizing your traversal tools to like get shit done, and it can be one of the. I wrote that it can be one of the more demanding aspects of the co-op experience, is constantly having to use your traversal tools in the right ways in conjunction with each other, and that it's a rewarding part of the gameplay experience. It's one of the most important parts of the co-op, especially. But getting jetty boots, it's kind of nice that it just, when you have that. I think I even said jetty boots are like specifically nice later on in a play session, for example. You probably actually wouldn't want them on your first mission. It kind of just cheapens things. But if you've been playing for like a couple of hours or something, it's almost just nice to have the edge taken off, and it makes the mission a bit more fun and a bit less like you just have to put a bit less thought into it, basically. And it's kind of just nice to have that sometimes. But it does also elevate traversal tools in a lot of ways. I think Driller especially, so good on you, but I think Driller gets a lot out of jetty boots for sure.
Jetty boots is boring. It ruins the game and how you play it. Boo! And then the new blood sugar mode is like, oh, this is fun. This is a fun mission. Yay! Not realizing it's the exact same thing. The exact
pretty much,
same thing.
Well, I mean,
making the missions like more fun and easy in the same way.
More so, low gravity is the same thing. And no one complains about that. Obviously, because it's been there for forever.
Nobody complains about something that was already in the game before they started playing it. That's like a thing. People only complain about stuff that had been new or added since, because they didn't come to like terms with it a while ago or some bullshit.
Yeah, and it kind of hurts because I would say as far as the as far as season 4's features, jelly boots are the best thing in it, right? Let's be honest.
Oh yeah,
there was some
season 4.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously, like the weapon balancing stuff was like really cool for season 4, but that was almost just to make up. That almost felt like it was to make up for stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, as far as new features go, J boots were easily the best thing there. Which is why it's kind of funny that the mission type that season 5 adds, kind of just sends them away, but also gives you a better version of them at the same time.
It both gets rid of them and it has 100% chance of having them at the same time.
Yeah, I think it gives you enough of basically a steroided version of the Jetty Boots experience in that extraction phase to actually make it justified, at least from the gameplay experience perspective, where it's just like, this is enough of a show off of what Jetty Boots could be. Like, this is even better than normal, even if it's confined to this window. I don't mind that I'm never going to get normal Jetty Boots on a deep scan, which is kind of weird. I still think it should be possible. I really do wish they'd found some kind of technical workaround for that, but it could be a lot worse, really. I mean, I'm not sure how it could be worse. I just mean it's not that bad, basically. But that that was the only thing I had from patch 1. Patch 2, the first thing I got is about. I only put this in here. It's not like the note in itself is not very interesting. It literally, it's just about them fixing a visual element of the mini refinery that they use in the deep dive version, secondary objective of on-site refining. And I wanted to bring that up because, let's be honest, the new deep dive secondary objectives, nothing, no experience there, and that's probably not going to change, is it? It's probably not going to, because
not a deep dive.
We don't
We'll never do a deep dive.
I'm not saying never. I'm not saying never for myself, but I thought it was interesting. Even if we're not going to spend much time on it at all, our position on deep dives, which is a pretty much more of an emotional position, I would say, than anything else, maybe, because they still work for new players, I'm sure. But it's just kind of a weird aspect of season 5 that it's inspires no engagement, I suppose. Because that's kind of what deep dives are, they're a fragment of the game that is just bears no relevance to us anymore. And that's not going to change. So, not even if they add new secondary objectives. Terrible shame.
Yep.
I don't think they. I mean, you could say, oh, they could be better. I think we're getting the better version of them next year. I think we're getting,
yeah,
of deep
that
dives.
would have been where it would have ended up. It's just kind of like a half-baked system which they haven't thought or cared about, because they can't work on the side system without not working on the main one. And they were always working on the main one, right? They couldn't, spend all their time putting stuff, making deep dives interesting, because then that would be depriving the main game. It would have been the same thing for Rocore, and is still, in all fairness, but at least it's not going to be a half-baked side tack-on DLC, and it's going to be a full-blown bloody game, with probably a huge team behind it, often. Huge being relative
look,
deep
dives are kind of the example of another game mode in the game, I suppose. And while there is intrigue there, especially both before and shortly after your first promotion, there's a lot of intrigue in deep dives, like this weird big terminal. Do you remember the specific sound effect? There's a specific sound effect that plays when you select a deep dive, almost. It's no, well, I guess that says something. But there's a lot of intrigue there. But like I just said, it's the only real example of another game mode, and it's kind of just turned out it's kind of become unnoticed, especially by longer term players. So it's a system that it's almost maybe it wasn't even worth bothering with any of I know it makes sense, especially because they're forced to give some attention, in terms of putting deep scan itself in deep dives, which is probably what inspired them to actually look at maybe there are some secondary objectives that we missed in terms of it having a different selection of secondary objectives. And it probably wasn't much effort, but it still probably wasn't worth the effort. You know, I think even the people who still care about deep dives aren't clamoring for them to be updated in any way, and which means we're certainly not, obviously. Not at all. Yeah, but you know,
I think it's just, you know, Fellowship were like, hey, what? Let's look around in corners of this game that we never even think about.
Which is a good part of season 5, though, isn't it?
Discover
right?
Deep dives. Yeah, it appeals. They just kind of added a little bit there, a little bit here, and even a little bit over there, which no one ever really we never give anything to the deep dive players.
It's like pouring salt right in front of the dinner plate, or right behind it, like on the table.
Yeah.
It's just a bit strange, but we don't want to talk about deep dives. We want to talk about duck and cover. Only because I didn't know there was like a pretty significant change. Obviously, we know what duck and cover is. It's the warning that feels like you're actually playing a modded difficulty, kind of. Not that Hazard 5 Plus can't do something like that, but I mean, like duck and cover, the amount of spitters, specifically acid spitters, is alarming, frankly. And it really does feel like a modded, like it's like a really like it's a true modification to like the enemy like distribution. That's what it feels like. It's like
people like they give like a tier 5 sub or whatever the hell Twitch works.
Yeah.
And it spawns like 500 acid spitters.
Yeah.
It feels like that kind of thing. It's like it spawned way too many of an enemy you never normally see that many of. And yeah, it's and excruciating.
Yeah, they did a weird thing in patch 2 where they made Mactera in it more rare. It also says they reduced the amount multiplier of acid spits and red spits. I don't know what that means, but what I do know is they made Mactera more rare, which has basically just made it the acid spitter show. Like, it really is. You still get, and I think that's deliberate, by the way. I mean, when I saw that duck and cover was a thing during, you know, the big live stream, I immediately jumped to conclusion. It's a bit part of the intention is to show off the new stationary enemies with that, and it does a little bit. There are more of them, but at the very least, I think the Mactera thing is very much so neutered a little bit because Mactera Plague already exists. Duck and cover is absolutely just it's spitters galore. It's acid web spitters, menaces, and spreaders. That's like the main stuff you're going to be fighting, and there's so many of them.
And the things, but the things that they spawn like during a swarm. I mean, going into the like, you know, the plant ones, will be like chilling out there like a lot more often. The barrage infector, so on and so forth. So it hurts.
It hurts. Well,
but it's fun.
But it's also made us. I think us both noticed something. I'm pretty sure there is a cap to how many enemies can be shooting projectiles. Right? I think you noticed this as well. It genuinely, you see like literally dozens. Like there'll be literally at least 2 dozen acid spitters can show up at once. It feels like it at least. They're not all shooting at you though. They're just not. Most of them aren't, in fact. And I do think there's something going on there with like what the game lets happen. I still like it, but it's kind of weird. They clearly aren't allowed to all shoot you. It's like, yeah.
These ones that like roam around a little bit, have a bit of fun, get killed, you know.
Get killed nice by my clean sweep PGL, because that feels really good. On that game mode. Which is I think the highest compliment I can pay to.
Turns them into like roof grunts.
Yeah. Especially spitters.
Normal sword ceiling.
Well, especially the web spitters.
Yeah.
Like the roof grunts, and then these anti spitters like slashers, I guess. But that's probably like the highest compliment I can pay to all of those except Secret Secondary. In that Ebonite, Outbreak, Duck and Cover, and Blood Sugar are all pretty like they are like real modifiers. They do feel like different modes. Obviously, people I guess usually see the mission types as the game modes, but I think those 3 mutators they really change things up in a way that most of them don't. The ones that change things up that much is usually something like Haunted Cave, which you probably hate, right? I know I do. But those 3 mutators I just mentioned that they added in season 5 all shape things up in pretty much to that degree, but in ways that feel pretty good. Which is why I want even more, which is in season 6. I would let them do that. I would have no problem if they just wanted to do another dose. The only problem is you very rarely see the exact mutators you want if you're looking for one at any given time, because it's quite a lot, and obviously there's not a mutator on every mission. So if there was some kind of system where we could, I don't know, choose them, would be pretty cool. A Hazard 5 Plus adjacent system, where we could add mutators. I think a lot of people do want, the more than 2 warnings thing. I think I've seen that for sure, and it would be pretty nuts. But I don't think it's even close to a bad idea. I think giving people a bit more reign over that stuff, or even just bringing some of the things that warnings do as like new factors to like alter with Hazard 5 Plus.
I mean, custom missions is a part of the game that like they never explored, which could have easily become a thing, right?
Yeah.
Where people could have like made their own missions and then like kind of submitted them, basically. Like they're kind of deep dive locked experiences, but more like custom made.
That would actually be really
that
cool.
could have easier been like a part of the game, like a forge kind of thing. But
yeah, I guess like
it's not something that ever occurred.
No, if it was real, it'd probably be like some kind of in-game like a simulation thing where the dwarves can create their own like simulated levels or whatever. Because you probably wouldn't get payout from them either. I imagine it would be like just a purely fun thing, engage with other players' levels. I mean, it's not going to happen now. I mean,
you go into a cave some dudes made, and it's just 30,000 spitball barrages.
Is that what you would do?
Yeah, you put him right in the middle, and it's like you only need to collect one Morkite, and it's somewhere underneath all of those creatures. That's what I'd do.
I think if I had true freedom, I would just probably just fill every square inch with elevator plants, and then just have something happen that destroys them all at once. So you have that elevator sound, death sound, the elevator plant death sound like 1,000 times at once, and that's it.
Like, it's
like a horror level.
As soon as no, it's like, all right, so the pod comes down, and you put like 30,000 elevator plants in that one position, like over inside each other. So as soon as the elevator, like the elevator comes down, well, not elevator, but the drop pod comes down and crushes them, is an immense, roar as they all die, and then you spawn in 30,000 dreadnoughts at that exact instant. I think that
maybe I would probably do something. I would do that first part, but I would have what you step out into. So you'd have literally 30,000 elevator plants in 1 square inch that the drop pod crushes. But when you step out, the entire cave is like just a very small dark room, and the entire thing is covered with eyes. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And it's like, and the quota for finishing the mission is get 1 Morkite, and it's just sitting there. And you take it, but then you extract, and then the dreadnoughts show up.
It's still only the small rooms. You just lie for 30 seconds it would take for the drop pod to come down. But it's easier said than done.
But then obviously, there'd probably be some kind of system where you have to beat your mission to be able to submit it. So it would never be out there. It would never make it onto the public. No, you would just square.
You would just. You would just need like 4 gunners to cheese it, right? You would put 4 gunners. You would cycle shields, and then so if anyone tries anything other than that, there's no way they're winning.
So it would be possible, but I would have had to actually gather 4 people to. Well, then again, usually a level editor, you wouldn't be able to play test it with multiple people. Whatever. Pardon me.
Point is though, if we really like that timeline would not have been too weird. Have gone, but
no. I would love them to. Yeah, I mean, I'd love them to invest in something similar. For Rocore if possible. I think just the way their game is constructed from like a basic level design perspective. Like the procedural generation, Rokor's still going to have that.
mean,
it's conducive to something like that.
Spin-offs, like we have done multiple times now, of Super Mario Maker for Deep Rock. The whole point of the game is custom made for people to then like do, which I don't know what that would inherently ensue. Like maybe you can actually like piece together enemies, like Slash's arms, Menace's body, or some shit like that.
Yeah, well, I think if they were to make a spin-off that is purely a level editor, then it probably would be like elaborate in that way. Not if it was just tacked onto Rokor, which I wouldn't hate, but the way Rokor feels, it does feel like you're probably only going to get what would be like very different game modes in the form of different games. That's kind of what Rokor makes things feel like. It's like we probably wouldn't get a level editor unless they like for some reason chose to make that its own thing, which would be a weird investment. Maybe you'd get someone else to do that. Maybe you'd get, I don't know. But you brought up barrage infectors. I don't know if you knew. I mean, we wouldn't have experienced the differences, but they made them stronger after launch of Season 5. And I think there's been a little bit of a note taken mentally. They're kind of assholes, barrage infectors. They can be really difficult. I found like the only real way to do it is to like just to hope that you're in a cave where if you back far enough away, they're positioned in such a way where their projectiles will hit like surrounding terrain. That's like the only way I've found to be safe from them.
Which is hoping that the terrain worked to your advantage is not a great way of dealing with an enemy, due to how uncontrollable that is to you or anyone. So I think we should get rid of them.
Right.
I think.
Okay.
I think they've outstayed their welcome. They were guests in this household, and they threw up everywhere and killed me constantly, and they need to get out of my house.
Yeah, well, this is why I think a true balance passed for Season 5's content is kind of due. I'm also thinking about the overclocks, though, when I say that. Obviously, for obvious reasons, I've had to have a lot of experience with them. And so my thoughts have become much more like most of these are good enough, but I don't think they're 100% done with patching Season 5. I just hope future patches or the next, there's not going to be many more, but I at least hope the next couple could actually pertain to some more impactful balancing from enemies and overclocks and things like that. We'll see. That's that's literally the only thing I want to happen though, in between like when it comes to Deep Rock, between Season 5 and 6, is just a bit of balancing. And that includes enemies as well. But
because I know some people think the burst UK enders and needs fixing immediately. So stuff like that, right? And I think the spew fucker can find a hole. Area denial my ass. It just area insta kills.
Well, I've actually noticed the projectiles are actually much better if you get hit by them. Believe it or not, because they disappear when you get hit. Like you take a bit of impact damage, but they disappear. If you tank a projectile, It just goes away. Which is why, if the shot is spread out enough, you can basically create a safe zone by tanking a projectile. You'll be in a spot where you're probably going to be all right. It can happen. It's not consistent. I would say they are. They're not. Yeah, they could be better. Unlike the other one, like the Vartork, I think is actually like really great. For example, the Barrage Infector is kind of a bit of a bastard. I will give him credit. He gave us that visual of giant blister. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
that was like a real weird visual surprise, which I enjoyed quite a bit.
Blister on his weak point scales up with it swelling.
Yeah, because he's got that big swelling weak point. What a dude. Something else that happened in patch 2 this is a weird thing because it just makes me bring up sleeveless armor. Basically, they fixed an issue where some armors could be shown without sleeves in like the icon in the wardrobe, like DLC ones. I think if you were like already sleeveless or something, maybe that should be a thing.
Oh, so they have sleeveless DLC armor then?
Basically.
If it didn't exist, it couldn't be there, right? It wouldn't be a thing.
Well, that depends on if they did something when they introduced the first example of like sleeve, like Roughneck did Roughneck DLC, for example. If that signified a change to the dwarves where they're under, their naked body is always rendered or not, I think it must be. And I think that can mean that the sleeveless armors can kind of exist automatically. Either way, no, I think you're probably right. But so you genuinely think they made them
sleeveless version of an armor where they never made a sleeveless armor?
Yeah,
not.
I think works, so. I'm not. I can't. Because I'm a fence rider. I can't be 100%. But I think you're probably right. And it just should be a thing. It's a very weird. It's a very weird thing. It's a very weird dictation to make on that feature. Where the dictation that's been made is reducing the value of the DLC, basically, in comparison to the in-game armor. Obviously, before sleeveless armor, we wouldn't have thought about it, but now we have it. You're going to be thinking about it.
I don't know. It's odd.
Some Red Bull.
I don't do Red Bull. I just wake up.
You do Red Bull.
Ow.
Do it. It's like a drug. But yeah, sleeveless DLC armor. It should be a thing. Let's be honest. I guess some of them are already like that. Some of them are like the Roughneck one, and also Robot Rebellion. They have an example of that. But I want my Biohazard. I think probably be where I would turn to make sleeveless Biohazard armor. Which wouldn't make sense. Very antithetical to the lore reasons for that armor existing. But yeah, I think I don't know when, but I think that should happen. Personally, and I can't imagine anyone countering that. Except the art director. No one's gonna comment on this and say no sleeveless DLC armor. It's not gonna happen, or at least I hope it's not gonna happen. Very unlikely. Right, so this is a weird one because this could have easily led to things being a lot. Well, this very specific thing being a lot worse. This is to do with the Scorching Tide overclock, which we are big fans. Scorching, it's great. It's my favorite flamethrower overclock at the moment, and I didn't really have a favorite before. So, but some of you might not know that it used to deal half the damage that it does currently. And it didn't used to, very originally, I think pretty much exclusively during the experimental, it dealt it dealt the current amount of damage that it deals. But that was a result of a bug that made it deal double damage. And it's only because of that bug being the more favoured version of that overclock that they reverted the bug fix and made Scorching Tide as strong as it is now, which is a very precarious thing that it could have so easily not been what it is. Because let's be honest, Scorching Tide is best for shotgunning tanky enemies, not as much for killing large groups of enemies. And it wouldn't have been as good. It would have been like less than half of Praetorian's health originally, if it was left the way it was. Disastrous. It might have soured your already not particularly warm opinion on the overclocks as a whole. If Scorching Tide was not great, that would have been pretty bad.
You would hope that they would have buffed it naturally if it was too weak.
They could have done,
but there's no guarantees. It's not like they seem to nail buffing some other overclocks that are too weak. So, reason to assume. Jab, jab.
Like, what is that though?
Burst GK.
Oh, okay. I thought you were implying something that they'd already attempted to. Oh, they did attempt. Sorry, they did. They did attempt to do that. And Burst Fire is like just. I guess it's fallen flat with people. I really like it though, weirdly enough. But I just think there's been like a dictation made by someone who is like, I guess, knowledgeable about Deep Rock. It was like, I think it might have been Lazy Maybe actually. I think he kind of said it wasn't that great. So that's kind of decided what people think.
That's the public opinion now.
Yeah. I respect his opinion, but not as much on Burst Fire, though. What I do respect is
According to what we have.
What a comment.
According to it, it's just like a DPS issue. It like absolutely tears apart the GK's damage per second.
Yeah, it kind of does actually. Like it feels much worse against single targets than you would expect for an overclock that actually comes with a like noticeable damage bonus. It's like this. I feel like this should feel stronger than it does, and it doesn't. It's like not that strong. It just feels pretty good. Like
well, it'd be like more, better over time, but it takes too long. For Scout, you need these.
Yeah.
Probably be elsewhere.
Yeah, it's like the Burst Fire overclock is it's weird. It probably can't like the only way to really save it is to give it such a big damage buff that it's like too strong, basically. There was a video. Someone made a video that was that. He made a video where he modded it to add like 17 damage or something per bullet. And it was like, this is how we make Burst Fire a meta overclock. And then I think I don't think he removed the video. But he might have done. He did something similar where he like commented on it or like left a new video or a pinned comment on that video. He's like, I take this back completely. I take this back. Because it was just so absurd. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, I was wrong. I think he still said that maybe giving it a big damage up is the right way to go, because I think the argument was Burst Fire, it basically cuts your ammo by like in free, in a way. It cuts the number of shots, in free. Or divides it by 3. In that, the upside, the reward for that is when you actually hit, it's like just way stronger. But I don't know. It's just weird. It's just weird that it would end up being weak.
I just thought it would. Ultimately, I think it's a clean, right? Or
basically a clean. It's technically a balance that comes with a rate of fire penalty, which, but then you expect the rate of fire to feel different when it goes from being an automatic weapon to a burst. But the rate of fire penalty does mean, the bursts, it still fires slower than you might want. Like, you still have to press. Like, you can't you can't keep pressing the trigger and have like a constant flow of bullets, which is like the Burt. You can just press it, like over and over again, and they'll just keep coming.
I think the problem is the kid got an overclock, which is just not really meant to be changing overclock. I think it was just for people that want a burst rifle.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
Like I think that was it. It's like, you want to burst like an assault rifle, there you are. Like,
well, of course you do. Everyone loves burst weapons. Actually, well, they don't do that, but some people, burst weapons have like a fandom almost. It feels like.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely adjacent to it. Yeah.
I'm a burst enjoyer.
Yeah.
Hemlock.
Not from Titanfall 2, guys. He's talking about it. Actually, I just realised people are probably going to assume Apex Legends first before Titanfall 2.
Yes, they would.
I mean...
And in all fairness, it did carry over. In Titanfall 2, I did
okay, right. Carried over for you. I was about to say it carried over because I was like, the Hemlock wasn't the best weapon in Titanfall 2.
The best weapon in Apex, but it's what gets me kills. I can't be doing all my like to be in one, but I also got enough rifle, so I had to pick the middle ground, which is the occasional aiming of a burst rifle, which is carries over to deep rock. And I enjoyed using it like the one time I do. But yeah, I think ultimately it's just going to be one of those overclocks where it's like if you like it, you like it. Like
Yeah,
it's going to be one of those
I
things.
mean, it's kind of it's a bit of a shame because look, after my pretty thorough experience with most of them, Scout got it the worst, like straight up, like he did. And look, I know Tyler doesn't like crystal nucleation, for example, but Gunner and Driller, I think both actually got it pretty good. Engineer kind of did, because obviously the stubby got 2.
4, mate.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. That's what the stubby, the actual new one for the stubby, the weak point one. I'm not looking forward to the next Overclock showcase. Basically, is what I'm saying, because that's the next one. It's hyper alloy assembly for the stubby, which is the new one. It's like a weak point thing and accuracy, but it gives it like massive recoil. It's fucking awful. It's really not good. I've been trying to use it as like just like, how is it that an overclock that buffs accuracy and weak point damage is so easily beaten by EM Refire Booster, which has an accuracy penalty? I mean, I just can't justify it, and I'm gonna have to, because that's the videos. But yeah, that's not great. But the turret arc rework is really good. Pump action is good. It is. And then the smart rifle one, I really like it. I heard bad things before, but I like it. I've had people commenting, actually, like more than one person comment, saying they're actually looking forward to that video. And I am too, because I really like it. I still think it does bring up the smart rifle's problems, which is not enough either base ammo or damage. And then it could actually really help by maybe getting one of those as part of the overclock. But I've been able to have not only a lot of fun, but actually feel pretty strong while using it, which I don't while using hyper alloy assembly for the stubby. But yeah, overall though, it's Scout didn't do great. He really didn't. Could have done a lot better, especially when they go ahead and like do something pretty small, which is making cryobolts not be able to freeze neurotoxin gas clouds. I only put that point in here because I don't know how much we've really talked about that thing at all, the gas cloud thing. But
I still find it weird that you can't. Driller's grenade cannot be frozen.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's probably the main thing I wanted to touch on. Is I'm sure you agree that it should. I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. That's like I don't know why you would add that if that wasn't the goal. Really, like sure. Now the fact that the cryo can clear up after a Praetorian and do a bit of freezing, which more than likely will freeze yourself as well.
Well, the problem is that it's oh no, okay, now I understand. I understand the patch a bit better now, because obviously you can do that to a Praetorian cloud, for example, with any form of cryo, but for some reason the cryo bolts could do it to the neurotoxin grenade, where they didn't want it to happen to the neurotoxin grenade at all.
Right.
That's not right, guys.
It didn't think about the cryo bolt source when they were doing it. Like saying like, no, that doesn't work, and they accidentally forgot the cryobolt.
Yeah, obviously the cryobolt could do it to a Praetorian cloud, but it could also do it to neurotoxin grenades, which they didn't want. And yeah, look, my opinion, not that that's a misstep, because it's a change that hasn't been made technically. It's just like the fact that they did it to the Praetorian ones, but they were like not the grenade. That I don't think that's the right thing. It should. I think it should. I think because that's a good idea that we wouldn't have thought of, by the way. They didn't do this necessarily.
Yeah. Like as a driller, I guess it's like they're concerned about snowball, maybe, right?
Yeah.
Group flash freeze or group freezing or some bullshit
I'm
like that.
often thinking about snowball.
But the thing is the fucking neurotoxin could definitely have used with a buff.
Exactly.
In using it. Like, serious? you're getting all like make neurotoxin 2 picked. Probably axes are like 80% of all players. Like, like 10% is like the HE enjoyers that are just people that simply like throwing a grenade. And you've got the copiums using neurotoxin and the fucking shredder.
Yeah, I do think this speaks to, like, I think things have gotten a bit better. Like, we've at least agreed now that HEs have a pick rate to speak of, I guess.
Yeah.
But
I think highest.
Yeah, and I think HEs have actually fine the way they are. But I think, I think Ghost Ship have actually kind of mishandled Driller's grenade problem. I mean, obviously mishandled it in that there is one. But look, even like choosing to make the Ripper's damage type explosive, which stops it from like doing more damage to frozen enemies. Why? It wouldn't be too strong. Nothing's ever going to be too strong when the axes really stay the way they are.
Like they didn't want anything other than the axes to combo well with the cryo cannon.
Like as if that would change much.
And they've been going out of their way, literally. If this neurotoxin thing is to be believed, out of their way to prevent other grenade combos from being a thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Their grenades in this game are a fucking anomaly. Like,
yeah, I
really feel like they don't know how to do it well. Genuinely think the best policies are a fluke. Like Gunner's grenades and his selection and the balance therein is a fucking fluke because they have butchered it everywhere else.
Yeah, well, so it's like the driller thing, like the HE grenades, you wouldn't expect it, so they're actually fine. Like you wouldn't expect necessarily a cryo synergy with the HEs, so it's kind of just like
that's fair. It's like it's the burst to go with a flamethrower, or you slow them up with a sludge and you throw a grenade in there. It works well with the other two.
I remember when I saw the Ripper and I was like, that could be pretty damn good in certain scenarios, especially when it comes to cryo. It still actually wouldn't. I'm thinking about it. It wouldn't be amazing actually, because the Rippers are kind of just a bit fucked in that way. But
it wouldn't do anything a short burst of a temperature shock wave cooker couldn't do.
Yeah, but I still, when I first saw the Ripper, I was still like, okay. I mean, I know they're not going to do a thing where it can like proc Vampire, for example, but I'm sure it will at least like do direct damage and like to do more damage to frozen enemies. And it didn't. Yeah,
the Ripper is so clearly like style over substance that it's absolutely foul. Like it's 100% style, 0% substance.
Even
not even 99% style, 1%. No, there is no substance to be had. It is a danger to you and your team. It kills things just as well as a shot would. Like you just go like a bit of fire, a bit of cryo, like a big sludge puddle or anything. You basically be doing the same thing. You would kill everything in the line in front of you. That's what it does. It's fucking horrendous. I haven't used that thing in literally since they added it.
Yeah, I haven't used it in a while as well.
Otherwise.
I mean, we had a discussion at one point about how it would actually be better on a different class. It would be better on an engineer, actually.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be surprisingly good. And engineers, obviously, he's got the problem of he basically got broken by the shredders being added. It just completely fucked his grenade balance up. But the Ripper would have been like really interesting with engineer because you could use them pretty effectively with engineer, like with the way just with platforms. I mean, I know it's kind of really goes against the point. If you were to build a platform like bridge outwards and just put a Ripper on it and it just goes round and round and just like shreds like a dreadnought like that, but that would be. I want to do that.
Yeah.
I want to do that. I want to do.
To think about able to utilize them efficiently. That lures literally do no damage, but they were still viable. We thought, but they still because people could think their way around it. But then, like, let's do the most brainless grenade for engineer. Like, oh yeah, and then we'll give the most thoughtful grenade, like of the new gens, to Bella, the character who you don't think, you kill. That's it. You're an instinctual beast of nature. And it's like, no, he's got to like set up the situation for his grenade to fucking do anything. Out of here. Like, this is what I mean. I think they literally no idea what they're doing the whole time, and they just got caught most recently with the new grenades. And They seem to be doubling down by making neurotoxin even less viable because they don't see a fucking problem with it, even though it's so clearly terrible. But yeah, let's not talk about grenades because that's like the one last thing that it seems to still rile me up.
Yeah, I guess what probably won't is the fact that Tuned Caller technically got buffed, kind of out of nowhere.
I don't give a shit. Literally give a shit. That was good. I already thought it was the best, and now it's essentially gotten rid of the main downgrade. Like before, the charge up speed was noticeable and a problem.
Yeah,
genuinely. Like you would be caught out and take a bunch of damage if you don't prepare properly. Now it's basically the same, really. There's no notable difference to freeze them before they attack. Hey, the strongest thing got even stronger. Fuck using any other like cannon overclock.
I'll allow that. This isn't. I can't argue. And one other. I mean, well, actually, the next two things are the most actually noticeable things in game. Actually, because the next thing, this is from patch number 4, was a community request to add the icons of the classes to stuff in the cosmetic tree. Mainly the paint jobs. I think it's the paint jobs and victory moves, which is actually like a nice touch, but I don't see the point in not putting it on everything, even the frameworks. Like, I understand you can kind of tell they still look like the weapons, but it kind of just like, it'll make it a lot more intuitive. Like, it already has by doing that, but if they had like the icon, even on the frameworks, you can just much more instinctually and intuitively know where you're heading on the cosmetic tree. It's already there a little bit with them adding the icons to the things that they did, but I don't see any reason not to go all the way. But it's still kind of neat, I think. Much like adding a minus menu entry for the Barbarnacle, which is the last thing they did, basically, so far. But it's kind of what it is. It's weird because it talks about how the fact that their breeding destroys cave systems. That's the main thing from it. That's of any intrigue. Which is a surprise.
Barbarnacle
the lore
is the new main threat to the Caves of Hoxie's this season. It was Rivals, then it was Rockpox, now it's the Barbarnacles. They are the new antagonist. I look forward to season 6 called Barbarnacle Barnaculation.
Yeah, I honestly, in that moment, I tried to think of a word like that began with B. I wonder if Bohemia is a word. You know, like Bohemians. Bedlam.
Barbarnacle season 6, baby. Let's go. Barbarnacle biome. Where the Barbarnacles are the entirety of the walls. You were in a mother barnacle, the mother of all barnacles, and then you kill yourself because there's no way out of the barnacle biome.
This is why This is why we shouldn't get the level editor.
Yeah, that too.
Because that'll happen.
The maggot
corpse feeders.
Maggot room.
Yeah, you don't want to give people I don't want to give anyone the ability to put corpse feeders in places they're not meant to be.
I would put 2 eyes and then a mouth full of corpse feeders on the wall as you like walk in the room. I think that would be fun.
You shouldn't have power. You shouldn't.
It's creativity, baby. I can use my mind for whatever I want. I'm imagining you naked right now.
You don't have to. No, you don't have to. Let's talk about the most recent, kind of out of nowhere, below decks post. No, it was actually pretty cool though, because obviously, these happen. My selfish brain's like, these should happen more often, and hopefully, I think they will. I think we'll start like I can't imagine the next one won't be
the only thing we hear from them from.
Yeah. I can't imagine the next one won't be some informative in some way though, about Rogue Core, for example, especially. But it was still pretty cool because this was all about mission control and just like the process. And we don't actually. It's I guess it's gonna be not. It'd probably be hard to spend like a long time on it, but I did want to bring up a couple of points I just thought were funny or just poignant. I mean, I do wonder how many people know who he is. That Mission Control is voiced by Robert, who's the art director, who we dunked on a bit earlier in regards to the sleeveless thing.
Our arch enemy.
Yeah, but also best friend. But so Robert, I think the funniest thing to me was the fact that he created the voice before he had to be Mission Control. That voice existed because that's not how he doesn't sound like that in Danish, right? When he's talking Danish, he sounds like that when he's talking English, and did before he had to voice Mission Control, because he created a voice because he doesn't like how Danish people sound when speaking English. Which is just, it's just such a set of coincidences, because obviously, you know, he was kind of a placeholder voice anyway, almost, but he was just too good. Even the portrait that you see of Mission Control was an illustration that he did as a placeholder image for Mission Control, but it's just like, why change it? This is the character, clearly. It just all came from Robert's brain. It all came from
Without flaw.
Yeah, like a guy who is not actually a voice actor, and he's not a game director either. He's just the art director, which is obviously very important. He's one of the founding members too. But he kind of just created Mission Control. He kind of created the basically the main character of the game in a way, because you know he's the only character who is a character. And it just sort of got just created by this guy through the process of being an artist who was lumped with a voice acting gig at his own company. So it just all came from him. And I think that's genuinely super interesting. And like, it's crazy, like how like prominent Mission Control is, but it's also not, because like I just said, he's like really the only character as well. Yeah, I mean, it's cool. And it was a really nice post to read, by the way, as well. I thank you, Aaron. I love reading your post verbatim on every other month when they come out. But it was just really cool and really nice. We like Mission Control.
Stan, Mission Control.
Yeah, do your best Mission Control. I mean, was that it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I swear there's a phrase I can do pretty well. Stop it now. Not really. No, that wasn't even the phrase that I've used before. But I was just like, what could I potentially do? Not that though. Not that phrase. But yeah, I mean, look, keep it up. It was actually the post in itself was a little bit sentimental, but in a way that's kind of like self-aware. It was just like, because they talked about the last time that Robert did any voice work for the game, but not like the last time. It's just the most recent time, but it was still the last session that they did in that studio, because right after they did that, they basically started the moving process. And they talked about how it's like there was like a sense of finality, even though it's obviously not the last time. But at the same time, I mean, he's probably only going to be voicing Mission Control for a different game for a while now anyway. I mean, we don't actually know for sure, though. I've realised we don't know for sure that Mission Control is going to be, the road call guy, or if we'll even have a guy.
Yeah, no. There would you could easily justify someone else is in charge. This is a different area, but they would never not use Mission Control. Like, that is suicide. He is integral to the Deep Rock Galactic IP. He just is. He is the main one. At the very least, he's going to appear in it in some way, shape, or form. He might not actually be the man in the caves with you following along, but
well, I mean, that's he might not be the guy in the chair.
Fucking luck.
Road call necessarily. Like, he could
might
be
get
like
a promotion.
Well, I feel like it'd be a bit of promotion if he got to be the guy in the chair for the Reclaimers, Yeah, that in itself would be a promotion.
Like, he's the head of the Road Corps task force. He built the team. He's the Nick Fury.
He's the Road Corps game. Control is not a Nick Fury.
He is a Nick Fury.
I guess Nick Fury is like the Avengers Mission Control. But Mission Control is not the dwarf's Nick Fury. I can't abide by that.
The Hulk. Engineer is the Iron Man. Gunner is the Captain America. And Scout is the Hawkeye.
Yeah. who's I was about to say who's Black Widow?
Ozco.
But oh fuck, is it's not like who's the other guy?
No, I'm sure.
Thor.
I'm sure it's Bosco.
If you want to go,
I forgot about Thor. No, Thor's not involved.
He's not in it. He's not in it.
Thor is Lloyd.
I was gonna say Lloyd actually.
He a lot of fat.
Yeah.
Thing is, come on. When's the Marvel collab Ghost Ship Games? Where is it at?
Collabs. That's the last topic. Musical collaborations.
That's pure fucking luck. What the hell?
No, because it is though. It's so Windrose. Do you think we have to introduce Windrose?
Oh yeah.
Probably not. But I'll do it anyway. Windrose are a dwarven metal band, and obviously there is a like instinctual connection there. People have brought up Windrose and used their music or referenced their music in discussion in deep rock. I mean, they got popular.
Are both.
They got popular
tied to their successes.
Yeah, they got popular through a song, which is a cover. They got popular with Diggy Diggy Hole, which obviously originally a Yogscast song. We have a connection there. Yogscast is how we got introduced to the game. But people were referencing Diggy Diggy Hole before Windrose did that anyway. I'm really certain about that. I can't remember like that for sure, but obviously Diggy Diggy Hole was a fairly old song at this point. People referenced it when talking about deep rock, and then Windrose come along and do a metal cover. So naturally that gets picked up because it's a bit more in line with the game. Yeah. Well, I mean, no, the original is probably more dwarven because it's like more naturalistic instruments.
If dwarves were able to pick any instrument throughout time, they would not pick like like that stuff. They would pick a fucking heavy metal guitar with hard bass.
You know what? I actually agree. I was about to say no. Dwarves would be drums. Orcs would pick drums if they had to pick one instrument. Dwarves would pick the most like heavy, distorted electric guitars they could find. But it kind of just makes sense. So obviously Windrose have had like an imprint almost in deep rock, and we don't know when they were aware of it, but they were made aware at some point, obviously. And the connection that is a weird crossroad as well of Diggy Diggy Hole already being like something that deep rock players reference and are aware of, and then all of a sudden, Windrose dropped this song called Rock and Stone, and I think we first saw it. I think maybe on Reddit. I'm not sure. Either way, when we very first heard about it, we didn't actually know it was a deep rock thing. Technically, but you listened to it.
It was a big coincidence.
Yeah. Well.
And then all of a sudden,
you listened to the song. I actually haven't listened to it. But you listened to the song and they reference.
Literally, there is a line, Deep Rock Galactic.
I mean, I think it's like overall. I think it is like 4 Deep Rock Galactic. It's like blended into the lyrics. I don't think they just say it like that.
They just say it in the middle of a normal sentence for some reason. It's really stilted. The music stops as well when they say it. They just say it really. It's
like a text to speech thing as well. It's like Deep Rock Galactic. But no, they made the song called Rock and Stone, and then for some reason, neither of us knew because that stuff still happens. Right? Look, I mean, forgive me for being a weird like referencer, but like Dragon Force did a song called The Last Dragonborn, right? And it references Skyrim a bunch. It's not an official collaboration though. Like that can happen. You can just appropriate like names like that for songs. You can do that. I think it was the next day though, where they Ghost Ship put Steam post up about it, and it was like, hey, check this thing out that happened because of us. We collabed with them, and we got this song. It's an official collaboration between Ghost Ship and Windrose, which I think that's really, it's obviously cool. But it's cool because it brings Windrose, I think it brings both of them being, or consecrates them even more in being like mainstays of like the weird dwarven pop culture that's like emerged over the last few years. And now you have like cornerstones in like music,
dwarfcore,
and yeah, dwarfcore. You've got cornerstones now in games and music, and it's these two, you know, it's Deep Rock and it's Windrose, and now they've collided to make a song that should be in one of the games, right? It should be. I think they were asked about it a couple times on stream, and the response was like, "There's either no plans or like it would need to make sense." It already makes sense. it already makes sense. I know you would have to consider the exact implementation.
Really still.
Yeah,
but you just pop that in, like just pop it in the jukebox. People will be thrown off like a lyric song play in the fucking box. But I think they get over it pretty quick.
Yeah. I think people would.
Yeah.
It should be in one of the two games. I mean, I'm not gonna not bring it up because the last time I brought this up was just not on a video, so I want to bring this up. Mikkel mentioned at one point for Rocore he wants to put a gym on the Ramrod. It's an awesome idea, and Mikkel's the game director, so probably gonna happen. And you know, some games do this. I want them to really take advantage of like the growth that they've had and like the influence to license like a dwarven radio station, basically, where they have like enough music. It could, like, majority of it could be Windrose, by the way. But they would just have like a radio that plays like on the Ramrod that's just made up of all this like real music that works within like the universe. And you can just sort of pretend these are actual bands like that are dwarves. I mean, that's kind of what Windrose are trying to be. You know, yeah. They're not dwarves, but they are conceptually. They're fantasy dwarves, in band form. But I just think that was a really cool thing that happened. It's the last thing that happened before Ghost Ship went on vacation. And so that's it. That's the Deep Rock content we have now. Is Windrose's new song. But I haven't actually listened to it properly, which makes me feel kind of bad. But yeah, good old Windrose. But even an instrumental version would be fine in the jukebox, for example.
Listen to it right now.
Are you though?
No, I said you.
Oh, no. We could like play us out with it, like a radio might do something like that. Which I mean, we're basically done actually. But I did want to mention for some reason,
right, cool.
We just finished a game called Journey to the Savage Planet, which has it's got some Deep Rock DNA. But it also had that one of the songs from the jukebox on it in one of the fake ads. And I just want to say, I think Deep Rock is the kind of game that it's ripe for that kind of thing, like fake ads and stuff. I don't know, it might not happen in Rocore, for example, but I would love it because it's just ripe for that stuff. They really play into the corporate elements already. So,
yeah, they have the posters.
Yeah, the posters are pretty good.
Videos.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was Rambling, a channel update, and everything that's happened since Season 5 came out. Did pretty good.
So productive.
Here we are. But that's it. I think that's it. I think it's time to bring it to a close. Relatively compact episode. Probably seems counterintuitive when it's going to be less of them. I thought you were about to show us your cats or something. It's normally what you do when you reach to pick up. Come on, here we go. I think we usually show the cats off as like an ending thing anyway, I feel like.
Let's unplug stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, I might as well do the outro.
I don't know where one.
Oh god, now his voice has gone really fucked. Wasn't one just on you? He's right there, right? Yeah, he's right there. Look at that, it's the void. Anyway, if you enjoyed this episode, Bad Vision Podcast, please make sure to like and subscribe. And as always, you want to stay on top of everything to do with Deep Rock and Road Core, you will, because it's not like I'm going to slow news videos down. News videos might slow down, but not because of me. If there's anything to cover, you'll hear about it from us if you click that bell. And of course, as always, thank you to our members, our member Box Fox Scoot. You keep the lights on, and look, once again, we're really close to 1,000 subscribers, and we appreciate everyone who has subscribed. But we're so close, and it's our only real milestone. So let's get there. Which cat is this? Tyler? Ripley, subscribe. Ripley, can you say like and subscribe to Barrel Vision?
He's asleep.
Oh.
And he can't speak.
He's asleep and he can't speak, or he's asleep and he also can't speak?
Which one do you fucking think?
Both. Come on. Prod him. There you go. Alright, well, I think that'll do it anyway. Next week, I guess we're doing a boys thing, as it turns out.
Yeah.
But after that, we'll kick it up with a... I think we'll do the mission tier list. I think we'll redo that. I think that's got some juice. So you look forward to that. Obviously, plenty more. I might have to take some drugs to get through it, but plenty more Overclock showcases. I'm going to try and keep up the 2 a week thing. Goodbye. Say goodbye, Tyler.
Goodbye, Tyler.
Goodbye.